Hello everyone, this is Michael Michailidis from Ancient Greece Revisited, and this is yet another book review. And this is actually an excuse for Greek Christmas weather. The sun is brighter than in summer, which ruins my ideal of a white Christmas, but it inspired me to do this book review, which takes us back to the sunny places and the sunny plains of Andalusia in Spain. The title of the book is Duende in some translations, or Theory and Play of the Duende in Spanish, the accurate translation. It's a book that inspired me. It inspired me intellectually. It inspired me in actual fact, leading me to live in this wonderful place of the world for 3 whole years in the city of Málaga. I remember when I first read it, it was back in Greece. I must have been around 20, and I almost randomly picked up this book from a local bookstore. And I was about to meet a friend for a cafe, and Greeks are, or at least were, notoriously late for their appointments. And I was on time, like I was 5 minutes early, which was a bit of a miracle. And I had this book, so I was like, I'm gonna wait 10, 15 minutes for the others to arrive. And I remember in my car, parked a block away from the cafe, opening this book and then closing it, and 45 minutes had elapsed and I was terribly late for this appointment. So when I was back there, everyone was like, where were you? And time just went. I just swallowed this book whole, boom, and here I am to speak about it. Duende was written by Federico García Lorca. It was one of the most celebrated poets of Spain, who died tragically at age 38 by the Franco regime, executed. And in this book, just like in many of the Socratic dialogues, Lorca tries to explain to his audience a single word, which is a very common pattern in these Socratic dialogues. The word that Lorca tries to explain is duende, which obviously is not easy to translate, otherwise he wouldn't bother writing, or in fact narrating, because the book is a transcription of a lecture that he gave in Buenos Aires in 1933, explaining to other Spanish speakers what this weird duende of Andalusia, the south of Spain, really is. The word itself means spirit or demon. I guess back in ancient Greece, the word would be daemon, which is a lesser spirit, or sometimes it was an epithet for the god Dionysus, and duende is not very far from that. In fact, I'm looking forward to creating a small series of episodes about the connection between Andalusia and the Dionysiac element of ancient Greece. Remember how the bullfights were connected to the Minoan bull sacrifices. We see a connection there and would love to bring it to the fore. But back to the book. Duende means spirit, and it has the meaning of possession, a spirit that takes possession of you. It's typical to the Spanish guitarist and singer of the Flamenco tradition, and it's also present to the bullfighter. It's that moment of inspiration where the singer or dancer or guitar player loses himself, or it's almost like something takes possession out of him, and he creates. And the secret that Lorca is trying to explain is that this is very visible in that particular place of the world. People understand when you have or don't have this duende. You can be the best technical guitarist and play in an audience in France and be applauded. But back in Andalusia, they might just go, nah, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have this duende. Another aspect that is very important to us here in Ancient Greece Revisited is that Lorca is trying to point to the subtle differences between cultures. We've been trying to point to some subtle differences between ancient Greece and the modern world, or between ancient Greece and other ancient cultures, or between inside aspects of ancient Greece, because it's these aspects that tend to get lost. I'm also looking forward to making a lot of videos about the religious attitudes of ancient Greeks, because they're very, very confused. And it's all about understanding the subtle differences between, let's say, the Olympian faith and the mysteries, how they were almost like two separate religions that intertwined. So Lorca says this: passion is a very common human form of being, especially in the artistic tradition. Obviously, Homer, the poet, had passion. Obviously, Beethoven, the musician, had passion. Van Gogh had passion. But it's a different passion, or at least that's what Lorca tries to explain. The passion of Homer, whom Lorca mentions by name in this book, is exactly as Homer himself says, the muse. Homer begins his epics by an invocation to the muse. Tell me, muse, of the many ways man of Odysseus. So you have the image of something coming from above, some divine inspiration dropping from a higher plane of existence into our own. That's the Homeric conception. Duende, Lorca says, does not come from above. Duende awakens in the blood cells. Duende wants blood, sacrifice, wants things to break. Lorca, in his book, describes a wonderful scene where a famous cantaora, a flamenco singer, left Spain and went to Paris, where she became famous. Years later, she returned almost as a tribute to her homeland, and she stood in front of a very well-known audience and sang, and no one liked her. And one member of the audience raised his glass, says, "Viva Paris," almost like saying, these go back to Paris. These things are not for us. She got very upset and took a big jar of red wine and swallowed it whole, obviously losing her voice for that night. But she began to sing again. And that moment, she had it. She had Duende. And everyone was taken aback, right? So there's something about Duende. It's unlike the other forms of passion that wants sacrifice. The more I think about it, is very Dionysiac in this case. There's something very Dionysiac in the Andalusian culture, very tragic. And it's not to amaze us that tragedy was reborn in this part of the world through the works of Federico García Lorca, who wrote many tragedies. So Duende is a very short book. You can read it while your friends are waiting for you, and you'll have a perfect excuse for being late. I recommend it. And we're looking forward into drawing many more connections between these two great parts of the world. Thank you very much.